अच्छा, ये इंग्लिश और हिंदी में कॉम्बिनेशन रहेगा। कोशिश करेंगे हम सबको हर तरह से समझाने की, आपका कंफर्ट लेवल जो हो वो फॉलो करिएगा। गुड आफ्टरनून फ्रेंड्स एंड वेलकम टू अनदर एपिसोड of Mind Speak, where we all get to listen to new speakers and new subjects every day. The vivid world of colors brings life in our hearts and minds. Colors are a powerful communication tool and can be used to signal action, influence mood, and even influence physiological reactions. Certain colors have been associated with the increased blood pressure, increasing metabolism, and eye strain. Color is one of the most important factors in space, which influences the way individuals express their emotions. And gems are an integral part of Mother Earth. And they say, Ratna, Ratna जो है तकदीर वालों के हाथ ही लगता है। आज एक बेहतरीन और रंगीन हस्तियां हमारे बीच में हैं, मौजूद हैं, जो हमें रत्नों के इस दुनिया में ले जाएंगे और रत्नों के सारे पहलुओं की बात करेंगे। हमारे साथ आज पैनल में एक स्पेक्ट्रम ऑफ जेम्स जुड़े हुए हैं। मैं शुरुआत करूंगा उनका इंट्रोडक्शन करने के लिए। श्री धर्मेंद्र जी टांक फाइन जेम्स जयपुर। धर्मेंद्र जी is the sixth generation gem dealer trained under his grandfather, the legendary Raj Roop ji, and his father, Shri Dulichand ji Tank. They deal in fine quality colored gemstones, have a house, a lapidary, where lapidary work is done and precision cutting is done, and a lot of fancy cuts are done in colored stones. He believes that quality, not quantity, is the motive. We also have Arun Jain ji, who has joined us from Hong Kong. He is director of PG Group and the owner of GemDM, who is one of the leading manufacturers of emeralds. He is born and brought up in Jaipur and has learned the gemstone cutting and polishing in Jaipur and Israel, and has bought the high-tech cutting polishing machines in Jaipur for the gems and jewelry industry. His company GemDM is a leading manufacturer, importer, and exporter of precious and semi-precious stones with a very vast global network around the globe from India, Hong Kong, Thailand, US, and Europe. And he has a worldwide clientele. And he is also a leading supplier of emeralds from Zambia, Colombia, Brazil, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. And he also deals in various semi-precious stones, including ruby and sapphires also, and diamonds. Then we have another young and dynamic person from the colored stone industry, Kamal Punjabi. He comes from the old firm of TT Gems, which everybody knows is famous in Mumbai. Kamal is a third generation gemstone merchant. The company is a specialist of high-end certified precious colored gemstones and is the gemstone industry for over 60 years. We have with us another young fellow I know very well, Jai Sagar. He is now handling the jewelry division at Astaguru Auctions, and he belongs to the family of Pransuklal Jewelers and has a very respectable and a very interesting background with the gems and jewelry industry and of gemstones. His father is also a dear friend of mine. We have with us again Mehernosh Hiramanik, who is from Hiramanik and Son, founded in 1882. They are the purveyors of Oriental and European object art, period silver, clocks and watches. As jewelers, they are specializing in fine and important gemstones and designers and manufacturers of excellent jewelry. They are also consultants to Pandol's auction house for antique silver and jewelry. We have a moderator who is Mr. Rajiv Jain, who is the CMD of Sambhav Gems, who is also the past chairman of the Gems and Jewelry Export Promotion Council. Excellent friend, an excellent human, and a wonderful orator. Friends, we have a wonderful panel. I would request you to keep your videos on the off mode for those who are not going to be on the panel. We have a 90 minutes time schedule approximately. There'll be 15 minutes for questions and answers. And we try to make a combination of Hindi and English in this webinar. Over to Rajiv ji. Sir ji, shuru kariyega sir.
He needs to be unmuted. I think his thing is on mute.
I have unmuted Rajiv ji. Rajiv ji.
Rajiv ji, you may start.
Oh.
He's unmute. He's still on mute.
No. Actually, it was another.
He has to unmute.
I have unmuted him. Yeah, Rajiv ji, please.
My strings were with Avinash ji. Thank you, Avinash ji.
I'm sorry. I just want to come on this. Please don't mute from your side. It will become difficult to for me to check who got muted. I will try my level best to play that.
Okay, friends. A very good afternoon to all of you. I welcome all my panelists. You have heard their background. Being the moderator, I'm the only person who's a first generation jeweler. None of my family member is a jeweler. And I welcome all the viewers across the country who are watching this. Since I am a novice, because I've started my business from last 30 years, whatever I've learned from my seniors in this industry, that is helping me. And 2 दिन पहले एक सेमिनार हुआ था जयपुर के बारे में, जड़ाऊ के बारे में, और उसमें कहा गया था, सुधीर कासरीवाल जी बता रहे थे कि महाराजा मान सिंह यहाँ पर बहुत सारे कारीगरों को लाए थे. The reason was that इसको बोलते हैं ढूंढार प्रदेश, where there is only sand. ढूंढार means sand dunes थे और कुछ नहीं था. So geographically there was very less agriculture. यहाँ पे क्राफ्ट ही पनप सकता था. और जब जड़ाऊ का और ये सारा काम आया, उसके साथ कलर्ड स्टोन भी आए. And if I go back in the history, तो बहुत सारी बातें बड़े लोगों ने बताई हैं जो which I have learned from them. And there used to be pirates who used to travel across the world. और कुछ कंट्री से उनको कुछ पत्थर मिलते थे और वो अपने शिप में डाल के ले आते थे. ऐसे सोने की चिड़िया और ऐसे इंडिया इस तरह से नाम जो हुआ, महाराजाओं के पास इतना जो वेल्थ हुआ, हीरे माणक पन्ने मोती सब जो आए, वो ऐसे नहीं आए. उसके पीछे बहुत बड़ी कहानी है. और वो जब लेके आते थे और यहाँ से वो लोग स्पाइसेस लेके जाते थे, बदले में वो पत्थर दे जाते थे. और पटना बहुत बड़ा एक सेंटर हुआ करता था. पोर्ट से वहां पे पटना में आते थे और रोड साइड में बैठ के वो लोग हरे रंग के पत्थर, लाल रंग के पत्थर वहां बेचा करते थे. और वो उसी तरह से कोलंबियन एमरल्ड्स भी आए इंडिया में और बहुत सारे रत्न यहाँ पर आए. और धीरे धीरे जब महाराजा मान सिंह ने ये सेंटर बनाया और आमेर था, आमेर के बाद when the Jaipur city was established, then this industry developed in Jaipur. And this is very important to say here that आप लोगों को शायद बहुत लोगों को मालूम होगा, 1966 में जब जेम्स एंड ज्वेलरी एक्सपोर्ट प्रमोशन काउंसिल बनी थी, तब हीरे का एक्सपोर्ट ना के बराबर था. And it was formed in Johri Bazaar, Jaipur here. जयपुर में बनी थी जेम्स एंड ज्वेलरी काउंसिल, बट हीरा क्योंकि बहुत एक्सपेंसिव स्टोन था, and it developed, we developed the skill. And today, the whole council is dominated by diamond and then gold jewelry. Color stone comes very later. But it is very important to say that with a very less export of color gemstone, उसकी importance बराबर है. अभी हम बात कर रहे थे कि एक कलर स्टोन के साथ 10, 12, 15, 20 हीरे जरूर बिकते हैं, क्योंकि जब उसकी अंगूठी बनती है तो बीच में कलर स्टोन ही होता है, हीरा चारों तरफ होता है. तो दैट इज द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ कलर जेम स्टोन. एंड चाहे एक्सपोर्ट कम है, सेल कम होगी हीरे के मुकाबले, लेकिन फिर भी 3 लाख लोगों को रोजगार जयपुर में मिलता है from color gemstone. So that is the importance of color gemstone. And Dharmender Tak is there. He is from the family who has a legacy. और मुझे कहते हुए बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा है कि somewhere directly or indirectly मैं भी इनकी फैमिली का कहीं ना कहीं चेला रहा हूँ, क्योंकि गुरु चेला पद्धति रही है. तो मेरे जो गुरु जी थे वो इन्हीं की फैमिली से सीखे थे, इनके ग्रैंडफादर से सीखे थे. एंड वी कॉल हिम पोनू, हम लोग प्यार से पोनू बोलते हैं. हिज नेम इज धर्मेंद्र. So I will keep talking to him like Ponu only. Ponu, what do you think? What are the fundamentals of the family of the colored gemstone? You know, you belong to such a family. So what are the fundamentals? I know that you came in business in a very young age when your grandfather was dead. You were, I think, about 16, 17 years old when you started coming to your office. So can you let us know, you know, what are the fundamentals of your family or the business, how it was developed?
Thank you very much, Rajiv Bhai. It's a great honor to share this platform with such esteemed speakers. So, आपने जो family legacy की बात करी है, that's very true. I'm blessed to have that with me. और मैं थोड़ा सा हिंदी में बताऊंगा. पुराने टाइम में क्या था राजीव भाई? If you also remember, जैसे आपने जहाँ विजय चंद्र जी बाबा साहब से काम सीखा किया, उस टाइम पे ये सिस्टम हुआ करता था कि कोई भी आदमी हो, irrespective of his status, वो अपने बच्चों को किसी और के यहाँ काम सीखने भेजा करते थे. तो that was like a गुरुकुल पद्धति. तो हमारे यहाँ पे मेरे दादाजी के पास में सब लोगों ने काम सीखा, वहीं रहते थे. पुराना टाइम था, शहर के मकान में सब रहते थे, काम सीखते थे साथ में. और वहाँ पे कोई छोटा बड़ा नहीं था. The main aim was to get the maximum knowledge what you can get from learning from a person. एक दूसरे से भी रोज सब चीजें सीखने को मिलती थी. आपके डेली लाइफ एक्सपीरियंस, मतलब छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं, बाजार से फल सब्जी लाने से लेकर के दिन में जेमस्टोन्स की छटाई तक आपको सब करनी पड़ती थी. दैट वाज लाइक अ बेसिक ट्रेनिंग सेंस कि भाई आपकी नजर कितनी शार्प है, आप कैसे चीज को पिक कर सकते हो. तो आई थिंक the basic thing what I feel as I learned my business from my grandfather. उस वक्त बात आई थी कि मैं GIA करने जाऊं या नहीं जाऊं. तो मेरे ग्रैंडफादर ने एक ही बात बोली कि मैं जब इतने बच्चों को सिखा सकता हूं तो मैं तुम्हें क्यों नहीं सिखा सकता हूं. और वाकई में मैं ये देखता हूं कि उस टाइम इतनी मशीन्स और नहीं होते हुए भी उन्होंने हमको अपने लेवल पे टेक्निकली इतना साउंड किया है कि बेसिकली ऑफ एंड ऑन हम कहीं बहुत ज्यादा स्टक नहीं होते. आज के टाइम में कहीं पे भी हो हमारा काम पूरा चलता है. उस टाइम में राजीव भाई सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग चीज ये थी कि देयर वर ओनली मेनली 84 वैरायटी ऑफ स्टोन्स व्हिच आर ट्रेडिंग, जिसकी कमर्शियल वायबिलिटी थी या मार्केटेबल थे. आज वो स्पीशीज भर के समवेयर अराउंड 540 स्टोन्स हो गए हैं. दैट इज थैंक्स टू आवर फैशन इंडस्ट्री, आवर जेमोलॉजिकल इंस्टीट्यूशंस एंड एवरीबॉडी. तो दिस इज द बैकग्राउंड कि ये जेमस्टोन इंडस्ट्री, जेमस्टोन बिजनेस जयपुर से कैसे चला, लोगों ने काम कैसे सीखा. And this is how even I was trained, and I've been doing my work, and I think I'm still learning a lot of things from a lot of people around.
Thank you, Ponu, for this information. Now you are saying that we have lot more stones now. पहले तो हम 9 रत्नों को ही जानते थे, और उसके अलावा there are lots of other stones, और बहुत सारे stones में अब काम होता है. Even I am dealing more than 100 kinds of stone. But मेरे दिमाग में एक बात हमेशा रहती है, why there is a terminology called semi-precious and precious. You know, certain stones are called precious and certain stones are called semi-precious. So why this is so?
राजीव भाई, उस टाइम में क्या था कि जैसे आपने स्टार्टिंग में अशोक भाई ने भी बोला कि माणक की दलाली में, और ये बात सही है कि माणक इतना महंगा बिकता था उस वक्त कि हीरे की दलाली में, उसकी दलाली में हीरे आ जाते थे. छोटी सी चीज बताता हूँ, वे बैक इन 85 मैंने दिल्ली में बहुत बड़े बड़े शोरूम वालों को देखा है कि एलबी की हीरे की पुड़िया में से एलबी वाला माल लेते थे और पिंक कलर का डायमंड रिजेक्शन कर देते थे. ये मैंने देखा 85 में. तो उस वक्त क्या था कि ये 3 स्टोन सबसे एक्सपेंसिव हुआ करते थे, पन्ना, माणक, नीला. और सेमी प्रेशियस टर्म सिर्फ उन स्टोन्स को दिया था जो कि सस्ते हो, और कोई रीजन नहीं था, जिसकी वैल्यू थोड़ी सी इन कंपैरिजन ऑफ दिस स्टोन्स बहुत मिनिमम हुआ करती थी, और कोई कैटेगराइजेशन का कोई और रीजन नहीं था. तो इट वाज जस्ट टू डिफरेंशिएट, जब आप कोई आपस में अपना बात कर रहे हैं ट्रेड लैंग्वेज की तरह कि भाई आप किस तरह के स्टोन में काम करते हो, तो ये इजी हो जाता था कि भाई सेमी का मतलब जो स्टोन्स एक सर्टेन प्राइस रेंज और उसके नीचे चलता है. पर आज के टाइम में अगर अपन देखें तो दैट टर्मिनोलॉजी डजंट एग्जिस्ट एनीमोर. क्योंकि you can have equally expensive tourmaline से लेकर के aquas and everything available to you. So I think that's the only concept behind that.
So you agree that in today's world there shouldn't be any terminology called semi-precious, because I believe when we say semi-precious, we are giving this idea to the customer कि आप असली पत्थर नहीं खरीद रहे, आप आधा नकली पत्थर खरीद रहे हैं, you know, semi-precious और आधा असली खरीद रहे हैं.
हाँ.
Which
I don't think so. This should exist. और राजीव भाई आपको तो पता है ICA में अपन लोगों ने years back ये already approve करके clear कर दिया है कि there is nothing like term semi precious.
No, but on this question, if Mehernosh or Jay, they want to put some light because they are selling jewelry and Jay is doing auctions. ये terminology कहीं ना कहीं तकलीफ देती है क्या हमको?
Sorry, Jay, carry on.
No, Mehernosh, go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, so what I was saying is I think it's just one of those things that it depends on how you market it, honestly. It all depends on how you're marketing it. Obviously, I would say 80 or 90% of our clients would be interested in mainly diamonds, rubies, emeralds. Sapphire is very, very rare to sell in India because of the unlucky bit. But I think there's a very limited market in India for high range semi-precious stones. For example, we bought some really, really crazily expensive amethysts and stuff like that, tanzanites, a few years ago. I just haven't been able to sell them at those prices, not even at my cost price, because people are not willing to spend that much on semi-precious, irrespective of the fact that they are good quality and they are worth whatever we are asking for. But at the same time, they'll walk into a place like Bulgari and spend 10 times the amount because it's Bulgari. You know? So I think it really depends on marketing. We're trying very hard to also incorporate a lot of semi-precious stones in our jewelry, but it's an uphill task to convince our Indian clients to buy them. I don't know what Jay has to say about it.
No, I mean, in the sense that, again, when it comes to semi-precious stones, so the first time I saw a semi-precious stone, which was very expensive, was a demantoid garnet. And that was, I think, in 1999, when I had just started business. And at the family store, where they basically explained that, look, it's a very, at that time they had said that you cannot classify. A stone is a stone. You cannot say this is semi. Yes, you have the diamond, ruby, the big five. But now a demantoid garnet can cost a lot more than a diamond, you know, hypothetically speaking. So it's, again, like you rightly said, it's all about classification, because when we travel for shows and things like that, and we see the prices for fine quality amethysts, garnets, for the demantoid garnets, aquas, you cannot believe the prices, because in your mind, I think that the way we've been programmed is precious and semi-precious, which actually we need to break that barrier. I feel so.
Rajiv, can I say something about this?
Yeah.
Like what I feel in general, there's two things also what we have to think of. First, of course, the tradition was, the old traditions, everybody used to think for the resale value or the investment value. So in that, always the people used to think that when you have a precious stone or when you have a diamond, it's always have a value when you go and resell in the market, you know. And it was not like semi-precious stones to buy and go and sell. Nobody used to buy a semi-precious stone for the investment. So this was also one category. And the other thing, what I see most of the time before the semi-precious stones, you can make a replica of the same stone, like 100 pieces same. But when you go and you want to cut an emerald of same 100 pieces or a ruby of 100 pieces, it's not possible. There's a very much rarity in a precious stone and a semi-precious stone about this. Of course, there are 10-20% semi-precious stones which are actually very rare also now. But before, what you can see, most of the semi-precious stones, they are actually, you can say that you can make lots of similar stones which you cannot do it in the precious stone. You know? So that is also something which classifies, you know.
That is one point of view. But the thing is that if we categorize this in the low value stones and high value stones, then there'll be lots of semi-precious stones which will fall in higher grade category. What Jay was saying, the demantoid, it is very, very rare and difficult to find a 5-carat demontite clean. And you can find lots of 5-carat emerald and diamonds or rubies.
I can add something.
So, yeah, Kamal, please.
Sorry to interrupt. Like Jay and Manoj Bhai and Arun Bhai said, especially Jay, like how to we have to break the barrier between the precious and semi-precious. I just want to present an angle because we do get this question a lot all the time, and a lot of new designers, new budding jewelry manufacturers, they come to us with designs and they ask us, "We want precious gemstones of emeralds. Give us the best quality." But they don't know the value strength of each gemstone, like what is the minimum range to the highest range, and for each stone. So I think that all stones are supposed to be precious because it's let me say it's on your will and judgment that how you describe a gemstone. So we can describe each stone, for instance, emerald, ruby, sapphire, like high precious, medium precious, and low precious of variety of emeralds, rubies, and sapphire. Because we get emeralds at 100 rupees a carat also, and $10,000 rupees a carat also. They both can't be in the precious category. So it's better to call it as a high precious, medium precious, and low precious, wherein the semi-precious stones also can be marketed well, and they can also be known as high precious tanzanites and low precious tanzanites. Like cabochons of tanzanites would go for low precious tanzanites, and high precious tanzanites of fine AAA color would go for in the high precious category. This is one way to simplify it, an angle we can. This can help a lot of jewelers and designers to understand the different ranges and values of precious gemstones.
Thank you, Kamal. I think we can discuss this subject for a very long time.
Yes.
But I can only say that if we start in Indian market, if we start discouraging this word semi-precious and try to educate a consumer and customer that this is the variety and these are the colors available and this is the price point, I think we can create a huge market in India itself. You started, Arun, with emeralds, and we all know you because of your emerald background, and you are doing great with all kinds of emerald. Can you let us know, what kind of varieties are there in emerald, and how you buy them?
Well, when we see the varieties, it's all about origin. You are asking that what origins they come from. So basically, of course, one of the oldest origins, they are actually in Colombia and Russia, when they used to come from both the places. And later on, they came up the mines in Brazil, and then came up in Zambia, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, also in Ethiopia. If you know, a few years back, they had a very good pit coming for Ethiopia. So there are quite a few mines which are operating, but as a regular producers in last few years, it's either been Colombia or Zambia or the smaller size in Brazil, which are producing quite regularly. Of course, Panjshir is one of the mines which is also producing very nice quality. And I can just say, but it's not as competitive to the other mines who are producing in a quantity where you can supply the same thing over and over again. And the basic thing, what I feel now, it's all about when you go to Colombia, of course, every origin has its own characteristics. So like when you go to Colombia, of course, the color of Colombia is the basic charm of the stone. Because if you see 10 stones and you put a Colombian there, you can always say that, okay, this is the stone I like. Nobody, even if it's a layman who doesn't understand, he will tell, no, I like this color, So this is about the color, the crystal of the stone. Of course, Colombian also have a lot of fractures. And these days, the treatments are there where the fractures are hidden by oil or by other things. But when you go to the other mines, like when you go to Zambia, that comes more on a bluish green side or more on a darker green side. But even some part of, you can say 5 to 10% part of Zambian is also coming a very nice quality and color. And the crystal of Zambian is, again, it's a very nice crystal. What I like personally, when you go Colombia, then the Panjshir is also one of the colors which is in comparison to Colombia. But again, this has got like more like cylindrical stones, which has got some pins inside. And because of that, you cannot manufacture too much cut stones. So most of the people, they try to make beads out of it, or they make other things out of it, because the clarity of stones also matter. So the same thing in Russian. They also have some production coming in last few years, the big sizes, more lower qualities. Not a very regular production, but still supplying to the Indian market, quite a regular, unusuals, tumbles, and all those things. Other mines are like, you can say, is more smaller sizes, more calibrated godes and more commercial godes. In Brazil also they have some mines coming big size but more commercial. So the characteristic of Brazil is more opaque. Most of the time the crystal is not as good, but color and the shade is still nice, So that is all about the mines, yeah.
Okay, so how you determine the price of different mines? You said the Colombian is the best. Color-wise, even somebody sees the piece, he would choose only Colombian color. So the price is the maximum for the Colombian stone?
Of course it is. If it's a no-oil stone or a normal miner stone, if you put Colombian besides any other stone, Colombian is the most expensive.
So when we talk about emerald, we talk about Jaipur. Jaipur has a history of cutting and polishing. I think Jaipur was the first center to cut and polish emeralds.
Yeah.
So how it started, and how many mines we are handling here in Jaipur?
Well, as of I know, because I'm the second generation in this business, as with my fathers and when I speak to all the peoples, of course, Khel Shankar Dullabji was one of the pioneers who brought the emerald rough to Jaipur. And there we came up with different kind of varieties, like Sendwana mines was one of the mines which used to come. And then used to come from Brazil, the Botley. And then used to come the different mines like and later on it came up with the Zambian mines and other mines. So I personally feel that, when this trade started in Jaipur, there were people who actually went to different parts of the world and they got different variety of emeralds from many places. And that's how this manufacturing thing flourished in Jaipur, that the people had actually gone out, they had gone out to find the things, and finally from different parts of the world, they got this raw material coming up. And that's the way this industry grew in a big way. That's what I feel about this.
Okay. When I come to rubies, अभी बात हो रही थी कि रूबी की दलाली में डायमंड आ जाता था.
Yeah.
And there was a time, and I know that we are producing less rubies in Jaipur, but there were other centers also in India. Trichy was a center, then Thiruvananthapuram was again a center, because southern part of the India, people like ruby more there. And earlier it used to come from Burma, and then the imitation started, and people started cutting imitation rubies in Jaipur. And I came to know that there is a dharamshala in Jaipur jiska naam hai imitation ki dharamshala. Imitation walon ki dharamshala.
Yeah.
So that means that business used to flourish a lot. And some people tell us that अगर imitation में कोई ruby का piece निकल आता था तो वो कहते थे ruby मिला के क्यों दे रहे हो? That was also a time.
Yeah.
But then ruby is the king of all the gemstones, क्योंकि नवरत्न में भी the center place, ruby takes the center place. And Kamal, you are doing lots of rubies, and you are doing varieties of rubies. So can you enlighten us on the variety of rubies and price points and all that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Rajiv ji. So ruby is one of my favorite gem, and it is known as the king of gemstones. Some of the reasons for it would be it's the most valuable variety of the corundum mineral species, which also includes sapphires. It can command the highest price per carat of any colored stone. This makes ruby one of the most important gems in the colored stone market. That's why there are so many imitations, because it's not easy to afford a good quality ruby. Since many years, the price of fine quality rubies have been breaking auction records. The most renowned rubies are originating from Myanmar, which is also known as Burma, and from Africa, from the Mozambique Montrepez mines. Besides that, ruby has been also coming from Vietnam, Cambodia, Madagascar, etc. The oldest discovery of ruby was, I guess, around 500 years ago from Mogok mines, and Mozambique is a fairly new mines, which is old, which was discovered in 2008 or 2009. The most important attribute of ruby gem is its rich red color. The finest color of ruby is a deep red with a hint of purple, called pigeon's blood in the trade. The lighter colored and dark purplish tones are considered to have less volume, And overall, the vibrant, rich red ones are considered to have a higher value. Just like Arun Bhai said, for emeralds, even in rubies of different origins, they have different characteristics. And just like humans of different origins look different, like Chinese would look different from Indian, a Burmese ruby would look different from a Mozambican ruby. Some of the typical characteristics, which is easy to identify from a naked eye, I can say is like most Burmese rubies would display a vibrant red, a purplish red, or a pinkish red color tone. The red being the primary color, and the secondary tone would be mostly towards pinkish and purplish. And Mozambican rubies would have more of a orangish red or a brownish red color tone, which is a more warm saturation, and the Burmese rubies are more like a soft, cooler saturation because of the purplish hue. Most, as a general rule, we all know that the clearer the stone, the more higher the quality and price. But it's not like that in rubies. Most rubies in general do contain some blemishes and a smudge like feather and silk. It's a typical characteristic of ruby and is a well accepted fact understood by most traders and consumers. A ruby from Burma would have silk-like feathers and cloudy transparency, and a ruby from Mozambique will have garden of feathers inside and sometimes very clean as well, and a more crystal transparency, which is more similar to a sapphire. So there's a wide difference in a look between a Mozambican ruby and a Burmese ruby. In general agreement, most gem experts are sought for value the Burmese rubies as the most prized possession. Today, manufacturers of ruby in Jaipur and everywhere in the world are cutting in many fashions, from small calibrations in all different shapes of singles, pairs, layouts, briolets, carvings, and cabochons, and beads. As per the requirement of design, each jeweler like Manoj Bhai, Jay, manufacturer selects the cut fashion to incorporate the gemstone in the design. It's always recommended, the higher the value of a gemstone, it should support a lab report. And just to give you a brief idea, for colored gems of higher value rubies, GII
हिंदी इंग्लिश को मिक्स कर सकें तो बेटर हो जाएगा.
Sorry.
Please.
तो जितने ही ऊंचे रूबी हो उसके लिए उसको एक लेबोरेटरी रिपोर्ट का सपोर्ट जरूर होना चाहिए. एंड खास करके एक्सपेंसिव रूबीज के लिए GII इंडिया में वन ऑफ द प्रीमियर लैब है. इसके अलावा आउटसाइड इंडिया GRS, गुबलिन, SSCF और AGL ये भी अच्छे हैं. कुछ रूबी की एनहांसमेंट्स भी हैं. मोस्टली रूबी बर्मा के जो है अनहीट आते हैं, इसलिए उसकी वैल्यू बहुत हाई है क्योंकि वो कम्प्लीटली फ्री ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट्स हैं. अगर वो हीटेड है, इट इज़ अ स्टैंडर्ड प्रैक्टिस, अगेन ट्रेड उसको एक्सेप्ट करती है एंड विद प्रॉपर डिस्क्लोजर उसकी भी काफ़ी अच्छी वैल्यू है. बट एज कम्पेयर टू अनहीटेड इट विल बी अराउंड 30% to 60% बिलो, डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट साइज एंड ग्रेड इट इज. Most important, I just want to just conclude about in terms of an investment value. We say diamonds maybe forever, but natural good quality rubies are more valuable. Gem buyers place this stone at the top rank for investment purposes because rubies आज की तारीख में ज़्यादा rare हैं, ये ज़्यादा value hold करते हैं और इसकी market demand diamonds के सामने मत ज़्यादा है ऊंची क्वालिटियों के लिए. That's how I would conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamal. But as you mentioned that there are lots of treatments and enhancements.
Yes.
Because when we talk about ruby, emerald, and sapphire, so treatment bhi saath mein hi aata hai. And
Bilkul.
treatment or enhancement is not a bad word in today's world. It is acceptable. Ponu, you could put some light on what kind of enhancements are prevailing in today's world?
Rajiv, like you correctly said, treatment ki jagah, I think when you use word enhancement, that sounds better to everyone. And I think as a practice, we all are using the word enhancement. And with color stones, enhancement is like a part of the whole process. पन्ने में पुराने टाइम से अगर अपन चलें तो ऑयलिंग से चालू था प्रोसेस पहले सिर्फ. फिर क्या अपने कोलंबिया और में सीडर वुड ऑयल ही था, डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ ऑयल, उसमें कनाडा बाल्सम भी आ गया, सीडर वुड भी आ गया. पर अब जैसे जैसे टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलप विद ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम विद द न्यू टेक्निक्स, वी हैव ट्रीटमेंट्स विद hardeners, with resins and everything, which is like Kamal Bhai said, it's an accepted trade practice, but I think we have to have very clear-cut disclosures about it. So emerald mein basically in today's time, it's Excel, what they call, which is with resin. There's one other thing which is with opticon, and there's an oiling. The three main prominent prevalent treatments right now. Rubies, mainly it's heating, but in the heating, the biggest issue is what is the content? What is the base of heating, the material, what they are using? Is it a borax? Is it a glass? Because lead, the things, certain things are acceptable, certain things are not acceptable. So a very clear-cut transparency and declaration is very important with the type of treatment you are going with. अभी रूबीज में एक रिसेंटली जो रूबी सफायर्स में हमें प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, and I think Arun bhai will agree with me that labs have started giving that if because the Burmese goods are all oiled from the mine itself. तो अगर उसमें कभी कोई फ्रैक्चर में ऑयल रहता है तो nowadays laboratories have started writing even type of oil filled in the cracks in rubies and sapphires, especially with the Burmese goods. This is my take on the enhancement.
In this, I just like to add, Rajiv bhai, one more thing that like in emerald, when we talk about the treatment, so there is like one more treatment which is also called like an Excel treatment, which is more like a PharmaSafe. So that is one of the treatments which is actually different from the resin and little different from the other kind of treatment. But that is more like a permanent treatment. So in a way, if you say that when stones have a fractures, you know, and then when you have some kind of a permanent treatment, but without color or without anything, then it definitely improves the face of the stone, and it stays like that, which is actually, if you say in a way that for a layman, if to buy something like that, it's more permanent than any other thing.
Right.
I just like to add, every time we talk about enhancements, we become very serious, and the customers always have doubts about it. Why can't we embrace it? Enhancement is all about, you know, number one, to improve the durability of the stone, and number two, to increase the look of the stone. So I think the appearance of the stone is improved and the durability of the stone is improved. So it is better for the stone, for the wearer, and for the seller and the trade. So it should be looked that way, and it should be presented and marketed in that fashion. And of course, with a proper disclosure, which is most important. The more you disclose and sell confidently, it is more widely accepted in the trade.
So you are absolutely right. If you are disclosing whatever is there in the stone, then I think that is the right way. And enhancement is not a bad word in today's gems and jewelry world now.
Yes.
So, okay, now let's come to, you know, the selling of the stones. Marinosh, can you let us know that what are the factors, you know, when a customer buys a gemstone, you know, you might be studying the customer's psyche, you know, why they buy the stone, how they buy the stone. So can you please let us know?
So I think the most important thing whilst selling an expensive gemstone or selling a collection of gemstones in a piece of jewelry is, I think, transparency. So basically, clients want to know, the first question they ask about colored stones is whether they're treated, not treated, enhanced. I think a situation where there's a bit of a gray area is something I wanted to ask before, is resin, for example, in emeralds. Why is that treated as a sort of a bad word? You know, like the moment we tell a client that an emerald has resin, they completely go off wanting to buy it. But from whatever knowledge I have, I think, like for example, in Colombian emeralds, 90% of them would have some sort of resin. So to what extent one can be transparent in such a situation is confusing even to, I think, people like me or Kamal or Jay or anybody, because a certificate sometimes says minor enhancement or moderate enhancement, but at the same time that in all probability would mean resin. And as far as explaining that to a client is concerned, sometimes even we get completely confused as to whether to use the word resin or not use the word resin. And this is an area, it's a sort of a gray area where we are concerned. Otherwise, I think, like for example, what we do is we make sure that 90% of the stones that we use in jewelry, whether they be emeralds, whether they be rubies, whether they even be spinels, we see that they are certified. As far as rubies are concerned, we mainly use SSEF, or we even use GRS, which we are very happy with, honestly. And I mean, what is that Indian thing?
GII.
Not GII. God, my brains are going.
Goblin.
No.
Not Indian.
We use here, yaar.
GII in Bombay.
Yeah,
GII. Yeah. Exactly. So we're pretty
receive an award every year for that.
Sorry?
You receive an award for the largest certificate.
I know. Sorry, it went out of my head. So we are very happy with GII. I think there are times when we have had stones certified by SSEF or Gobelin and GII, and our results are the same. So I think when it comes to convincing clients, certification, the reputation of the dealer, how you present it, and maybe some sort of money back guarantee to, you know, make them feel that their investment is secure. I think these are the important things, really.
I think you went more technical. Of course, that is important. But what about the beauty of the stone? You know, the story behind the stone, how old the mind should be. You know, the Mother Nature has given us this stone after you know, it was there for the billions of years.
Right.
So that the story also sells, or the beauty of the stones also sells, or just the return value or the enhancement kind of thing?
No, I think the beauty of the stone definitely sells. That definitely sells. So when we are buying gemstones, we mainly look for a good combination of color and luster. I don't necessarily examine, I know there are dealers who examine each and every emerald or each and every ruby with a 10x glass, but we don't do that, because I think then it gets like impossible to buy anything in colored stones. So yeah, the beauty definitely counts, and we feel that a good combination of color and luster looks fantastic in a piece of jewelry, and then the stones sing to you, they speak for themselves, and you don't really have to say that much to be able to sell it. When we are selling old Colombian mine emeralds or old mine emeralds, obviously the story helps. If the stone has come from an old piece of jewelry, then explaining the history from which it has come or the provenance, that also helps. So all these factors play an important role, I think.
So when you convert a piece of jewel to a piece of jewelry,
Right.
What becomes more important, the stone or the design part of the jewelry?
I think the stone is definitely more important than the design. That's what we pay attention to. But the design, obviously, if the design is not great, the jewelry is not going to sell. So I think what happens with us is, and I'm sure it's the same with most jewelers, when you look at a stone or a collection of stones, somewhere within your psyche, you have a feeling as to what design would enhance the beauty of the stones themselves. And then you work around that. With us, most of the time we buy the stone and then we do the designing.
Okay.
It's not common that we have a design in place and then we go to look for the stones.
Yeah, normally this is what happens. So I'm happy to, you know, when you say that we buy the stone and then design around the stone, that is the way it should be done.
So most of the times that is the case, but very often a client confirms a design first and then wants us to source the stones if we don't necessarily have them in stock, which is quite often. Basis of the design chosen.
Jay, what is your take on this?
See, the thing is, we, again, not like I'm stepping on anyone's toes, but our clients don't, the term, like you rightly said, I think is because of their ingrained thoughts. They don't want anything that's enhanced. So our clients, even for me to offer a heated ruby was a big deal. But I was able to change a client's opinion because we couldn't find the stones. We had a necklace in a layout for 6 years, and we could not find 9 stones to complete a necklace. And I told her, I said, look, it's only 9 stones. They're Burmese, but they're heated. Can we do this? For 6 years, she said no. So again, I think it's also, there's a very small clientele in, you know, I know who have this sort of very fixed thing, because jewelry for them is about Burma no heat. You know, I travel the world looking for Colombian no oil stones because our clients want, you know, those sort of things. So again, it's a very small segment, but it's there. It's there. There are a lot of people who just are very stuck in their minds that they don't want stones that are diffused, you know, heated, treated. And I think it's experiences, you know, because we had a client who came to us who bought a sapphire from an astrologer who told them that it was Kashmir and that it was absolutely, the stone looked stunning, but it had no certificate. I think he was in that frame of mind where he said, you know what, whatever, if it's going to change my fortunes, I'll buy it. But that stone was diffused. You know, so he gave me the stone. He said, "Look, this is Kashmir. Can you do something about it?" So we got it tested. But you know, so I think it's experiences like this that kind of put people off the word treatment. This is again, in my opinion.
No, but then that means that when he bought that stone, he was not given a certificate. It was
Nothing.
that the disclosure was not done. That whether
Nothing.
Yeah. So
See, and I'll tell you, our business has changed. Like, you know, there was a time when a jeweler's word had weight. A jeweler's word had that value, where people would say, "My jeweler has given me this," means it is fine. Unfortunately, over time, that has changed. No one wants to buy anything without a certificate.
That's right. That's right. Because मैं जो पुरानी बातें सुनता हुआ आया हूँ जयपुर के बाजार के लिए, because Jaipur is predominantly cornerstone market, and the whole business is on trust.
Yes.
Or if you buy a piece of land, even for 2 lakh rupees, there is a agreement between buyer and seller, and then there is a registry done later on. 2 lakh रुपए के लिए भी there is an agreement. But in gemstone, आप 2 crore 5 crore का माल किसी को दे देते हैं, you don't even have a paper. So that is the level of the trust, and the trust used to be कि जो जौहरी की जबान है जो उन्होंने कह दिया वही सही है. लेकिन in today's world things have changed.
Yes.
That is the reason disclosure and all this has become more important, and everybody has to suffer because of 1 or 2 people mistake.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
this is what we are learning in COVID also.
Rajiv, can I add to this?
Say something, yeah, please.
Yeah, what Jay bhai and Manoj bhai said, it's very correct कि enhancement or raising ये सब एकदम से customer को बोलते हैं तो he gets scared.
Yes.
So what I basically feel is there is clear-cut one indication. We are not educating our consumer properly. And the reason for that is that we ourselves are not well educated. We exactly don't know what the material has. अपन ने अपना homework पूरा किया हुआ नहीं है कि अपने को मालूम है कि अपन क्या दे रहे हैं. So that is one thing, we are not educating our client because we don't have enough information and enough knowledge by ourselves. There are so many new treatments, new things coming out that to be up to date, we really need to spend time behind research and development and everything. Then you are able to overcome all these things. This is what I feel, because even I'm facing a lot of these issues when we are handling with expensive stones.
No, but I'll tell you, sorry if I may just correct for a second. You know, there's now, for example, different labs have different results. Like if you give,
I was
you know,
just
so
coming
that's,
see, I was coming.
Yeah.
There is a, when you go, so important stones now, everybody has started asking for 3 labs. And sometimes one or the other lab turns out something else and it kills your business. There needs to be a control level, even for labs like what we are talking amongst ourselves. Transparency, education, more code of ethics, you know, even for laboratories, there has to be a system that, like for example, I can tell you Mozambique no heat rubies. GII gave me on few stones heated. And SSCF and Gublin gave me natural. The reason being that the Mother Earth crust, which is below 500 degrees, they accept it as a normal process. They don't take it as a heated material. And GII Bombay was taking it as a heated material. So there is again, between the labs also, there's no similarity. But for us, the best thing is to educate our customer, to be very transparent and have a full and complete disclosure. Then we can set, like, for example, we have a big market for these lead-filled rubies in India right now. The only reason, everybody knows what it is. So they're not scared to buy it. And I think that's the way we have to look at even promoting the Colombian resin material or the oil material. Diffuse sapphire is a totally different game. If you are clear with what it is, customer knows what he's buying. We have to educate them.
Just to take you from Dharmendra bhai, very well said that education बहुत ज़रूरी है आज के time में when it comes to certification, and let the client know about it. I just wanted to give a little bit an angle to it. Like, aren't we missing एक opportunity cost miss कर रहे हैं अगर हम लोग heated stones को encourage नहीं करेंगे, अगर resin को encourage नहीं करेंगे, अगर
Kamal bhai, I'm not saying that we'll not encourage. We have to tell them that there's nothing wrong in it. My first thing is to educate them with clear-cut indications. Clarity, transparency. Why there is a price. See, why customer gets turned away with this. Basically, the nutshell thing is the value of the stone.
Yes.
क्योंकि उनको ये लगता है ये इतना सस्ता क्यों आ रहा है, इसलिए इसमें कुछ ना कुछ problem है.
Yes.
We have to tell them that why it is like this and why it is like this.
So no, but also a lot of heated and enhanced stones, like आज rubies heated 10-10 लाख 20-20 लाख रुपए कैरेट भी जाते हैं और उसके ऊपर भी जाते हैं. और कंफर्टेबली वर्ल्ड में बिक रहे हैं और वो लोग अक्यूमुलेट कर रहे हैं बिकॉज आगे 5 साल बाद 10 साल बाद उनको मालूम है उसकी वैल्यू क्या होने वाली है. बट इंडिया में वी आर सो स्ट्रिक्ट कि नहीं हीटेड है तो यार हाथ नहीं लगाने के हमको.
Sir, the reason being people overseas, they are educated, they know about
exactly. I am talking to Jayan.
We've been having this discussion for 6 years at least.
Yeah. I've grown a mustache by then already.
No, but I think in nutshell, the right thing is that we should declare, and it is not a wrong thing to enhance a stone. अगर उससे stone मजबूत होता है, उसकी खूबसूरती आती है. It is only the way how we should educate our consumer. और अभी कितने से stone रह गए हैं जो enhance नहीं होते, because that is also an issue. There are very rare stones जो unheated या without enhance बिकते हैं. So I think we should leave this till here because this is a very technical subject and we can have a separate seminar on this. I would like to ask anybody who can answer this, how do celebrities or red carpet celebrities, or high society people, they influence our gemstone business in terms of buying gemstones or buying a piece of jewelry where the gemstone is there? I think you all can answer. So one by one.
I think if Mr. Menosh or maybe Jay can answer this more better because
they both will be better for this, I think.
Yes.
I personally feel the same.
I think Menosh.
Hi, Coach.
So, hello.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I think celebrities and
I have sent in the email, but it's okay.
Movie guys, I think they can influence the marketability of stones or the jeweler themselves or designs in a huge manner because they have a massive effect on society, on I mean, I know guys who actually stalk movie celebrities just to see what they're wearing, whose jewelry they're wearing, what stones they're wearing.
Sonali Kothari will go to him.
Sorry?
Ashok bhai, can you mute your mic, please?
I have muted him. I have muted him. Please carry on.
Okay. So, no, I think that it's a massive thing. And for example, if you look at the Oscars, that's a huge thing. Everybody wants to see who's wearing whose jewelry and stuff like that. And then if, for example, Jennifer Aniston is wearing Tiffany, then the demand for Tiffany suddenly goes up in a lot. I've actually experienced this in clients over here. Like after the Oscars, people send me images and say, oh my God, can we make something like this? And wow, look at this, but how much would it cost over there? And that sort of typical Indian mentality that we don't want to pay the price of a Cartier or a Tiffany, but we'll go to our local jeweler over here and tell them to make something like that, which today, honestly, we are not comfortable doing because it's a huge thing. But I think celebrities and well-known personalities, industrialist wife, they can make a huge impact on just the gemstone also. For example, during the Ambani wedding, like emeralds were going crazy, because Mrs. Ambani was wearing the most insane emeralds set in fabulous jewelry. And the whole market for emeralds at that time went like hit the roof. So yeah, I think it makes a huge difference.
Yes, also with social media now, everyone has access to social media, and you have jewelry bloggers or, who basically traveling the world, different continents and going to jewelers, taking photos, taking videos, posting it online. And now these people have reach of millions of followers. So it's actually setting a precedent, that now, like Menor said, what someone wears at the Oscars or the Golden Globes, it has a huge reach, I mean, I think about 5 years ago, there was, so we do a lot of old European cut diamonds. 5 years ago, there was again that vintage jewelry, vintage setting that came in. And suddenly we were getting, like Menor said, you get, WhatsApps in the morning that, you showed this to me a few years ago. Now I want to see it again. So it does reprogram the mind, and it happens very much, for sure.
I just like to add, Jay, that, similar like the Angelina Jolie when he wore that earring of emerald.
Earring.
Yes.
Such a big hit. And around the world, the people wanted the same design happening, you know, and they just want a simple piece of a pair of two
Two-stone.
emeralds, you know, something like
Yeah.
that. And similar like when the movie Titanic came, you know, the blue color, it made the whole America to buy Tanzanites, you know. So it is something which definitely make a big impression all the time. And the celebrities or any industrialist or any important people, the affluent people, they wear the jewelry, definitely it makes whole impression to the normal people.
I think Arun Bhai is absolutely right in giving the example of the Angelina Jolie pair of emerald earrings, because I think it just everybody started wanting the same, you know, the same look and the same pair of earrings in different qualities, of obviously depending on the price. But I think that's probably the most copied pair of earrings in the world today.
So that reminds me that even I made about more than 2,000 pieces of the same earring in so-called semi-precious stone in onyx, green onyx, because that looks the same. So that was you know, in fashion and everybody was buying. And Arun said rightly, after Titanic, the Tanzanite sale went up, although the stone which was used in that movie was neither sapphire nor Tanzanite, but people felt that it is a Tanzanite. तो इससे आइडिया ये आता है कि अगर हमारी फिल्म इंडस्ट्री या हमारी सोसाइटी कलर स्टोन ज्यादा can boost the sale of color gemstone jewelry. And again, the thing comes to is that how we should educate our consumer and customer. जब तक हम उनको नहीं पहने, after Jodha Akbar, this Jadao jewelry market went up so high, but everybody wanted to buy the same kind of jewelry. So that gives us an idea कि हम colored stone को promote अगर करना है, तो why not we use celebrities and influential people in Bollywood. So the other question comes in mind is that what kind of jewelry enhances the color gemstone? You know, everywhere we use what kind of jewelry does the justice to the color gemstone?
Less metal.
Yeah.
As less metal as possible. That's what we've grown up, and all our designs. It's more that you want to accentuate the stone. Yes, you have a design element to it, but as less metal as you put, and let the stone speak is exactly the theory that we follow.
I agree
Where
with
is he
that.
going to ask for a doctor?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'll give you, don't worry.
So how does the design part plays the role in if there is less metal? You mean the design should be in a manner where the metal is the minimum?
Yeah. Yes. So my brother looks after our jewelry, designing and manufacturing, and all his designs are basically influenced a lot by, of course, you have the Indian Mughal Art Deco period. So it's kind of a mix of that. But there you make it a point where most of his stuff, you don't see any metal around the stone. That's the way the setting is done. Yes, there is a design. But again, that's what we like. Of course, you have clients sometimes who believe that heavier the piece, better it is. They want to feel the metal. They want to feel, yes, I'm wearing something heavy. We've made lightweight earrings for someone and they're like, we cannot feel the metal. When I've got an alloy which is, strong, it is good, but they won't know. They want to feel कि भारी है, अभी हमको पहना, हमने कुछ पहना है, भारी है, बस ऐसे ही अच्छा है. So yeah, you have different clients for that.
That's right. That's right. So we have spoken about emerald. We have spoken about rubies. Ashok Bhai, when I was discussing with him, he was saying, and we are doing little sapphire. Ponu, can you let us know about what kind of sapphires we are selling in Indian market and manufacturing in India?
Rajiv Bhai, like Manoj Bhai said, sapphire market in India is a very small. It's like, I would say, still a very niche market. Very few people have the flavor for sapphire because of the astrological point of view. Most of them, they try to avoid sapphire. But there is a demand. People, like correctly said, who are traveling overseas or who have seen these celebrities, they're going for sapphires. Main supply sources of sapphires are coming from Burma, from Sri Lanka, from Madagascar. These are the three main centers which is giving us good quality of sapphires. Then there is definitely coming from Cambodia and Nigeria also now. But the three main marketable and the quality-wise material is Burma, Ceylon, and Madagascar. In India, we are doing some cutting, even of good quality material. It might not be the really super top, but yes, I think people who are directly connected with the export orders, they are definitely cutting some very fine sapphires in Indian market. And a lot of unusual things are also being made out of the sapphire material here.
Okay, so we have spoken about ruby, emerald, and sapphire. The fourth thing comes in mind is pearls. When I researched a little why Jaipur was not into pearls, you know, in the manner we were in emerald and other stones. So I came to know that most of the business was done by Oswald Jains earlier in Jaipur. And they believed that minimum violence, you know, jeev hatya nahi honi chahiye, and they believed that pearl is a living thing. And we pierce the pearl, it will die. And that was the reason it moved to Hyderabad. And Hyderabad became the center. Although now Jaipur is importing lots of pearls from all over. But that was the reason. So can you, Ponu, let us know a little bit about pearl, because the colored stone jewelry is not complete without pearls.
Yes. See, pearls, honestly, the oldest market in India was Bombay. Though these were coming from Bahrain, from in the olden days, the Basra pearls, but the market was still Bombay in those days. And I think even today, for very fine quality, the market is still Bombay. For commercial quality, or let's say the bulk quantity, Hyderabad is a place with different varieties of pearls like cultures and I would say seedless pearls like what Keshi and all. Hyderabad has developed another big center for pearls. Jaipur, the thing is not just that, because like what you said, living being, that was the basic thing that the Jains left the pearl business. And I think a lot of people in Bombay, particularly Jain community, they don't wear the natural pearls.
Yeah, so the information is right. That was the reason why Jains were not dealing in pearls.
Yes.
Very interesting.
एक time और हुआ था राजीव भाई, the market was very strong. What I heard from my grandfather, कि there was an overnight crash of pearl prices. Overnight crash. मतलब वो लोग यूं बोलते थे कि जो आदमी रात को करोड़पति सोए थे वो सुबह रोडपति थे. The pearl market crashed like that. तो उसके बाद से थोड़ा ये market जैनों के हाथ से निकल के इधर हैदराबाद और सब चला गया.
अच्छा, मतलब Jains were dealing in pearls, but they were okay. Bunty, can you let us know how, you know, what kind of certifications are available in all over today, you know?
Especially speaking for the color gemstones, Rajiv bhai, I tell you that there are a lot of labs today who are certifying color gemstones. And every country has their own lab also who's certifying color gemstones. But when you come to the high level gemstones, of course, Swiss labs are the most common labs which are appreciated, whether it is a SSCF or whether it is a Gublin. And then when you go to, for example, a normal labs around the world, like GRS is also one of the labs which is certifying a lot of gemstones. My feeling is about the certification of the gemstones, Rajiv bhai, the most important part is that even the lab which is certifying the gemstone, they should also have sometimes a proper knowledge about whether it is enhancement, whether it is a treatment, whether it is the color, whether it is size, whether it is about origin, or whether it is about heated or no heated. So like when we discussing before this thing, when Ponu bhai also said that two labs, when you give the same stone, they have different results. So the most important thing what has happened today is that when a general layman wants to go and buy a gemstone, he also doesn't know which lab has to go.
To trust.
There are labs which like in general, if you want to buy something in India, the people just send the lab in Jaipur to get it tested whether it is treated or not treated. They're not too much worried about the color. They're not worried about other aspects of the stone. They just want to make sure that whether it's treated or not treated. So in that level, if some people want to do that, for sure, it's fine. But when you come to the real information about the stone, then of course the labs which you can just trust are mainly the important labs in Switzerland which are there, or the labs which you feel that in your own country give the right information and declaring the right thing, you know. There might be always a confusion in two labs about some information, like Ponubai said that it can be a radiation in earth which gives a heating to the stone. But in general, that also should be, you know, you can say always categorized properly, whether it is the lab should give a same word to it or should give a different word to it, you know, so that the layman doesn't get confused. But of course, there are almost, you can say, more than 20 labs around the world today for color gemstones, which are generally people know and which are accepted. But each and every country has their own idea about it. Like if you call about Asia, especially in China, in the belt of India and all these places, GRS is one lab who's doing major certification to everybody. And people like to have GRS because he has some words which he has given, specially a vivid emerald.
Yeah.
He also rated a muso green, whether it is a muso or not muso doesn't matter. But if he's given muso green and somebody want a muso green, they just, even I have a Goblin cert saying it's a minor and they only write green. But then they want a muso green only, then you have to go again to the GRS lab and make a new certificate to get a muso green word written on that. So especially this whole the word specification of different labs is there. But of course, there are choices of all the labs around the world which can give the information.
Okay, actually my next question was on ethical practices and you know what, but we have almost covered that area when we talk about enhancement and disclosure and all that. But if somebody wants to touch that point in some other aspect, you are welcome to do so. Then I'll come to my next question.
I can add to this, Rajiv, just a little bit about this, that always, of course, when we are selling something to somebody, because we are more on a manufacturing base and we are more in contact with the traders and the jewelers. So we are not in very much connection with the direct end consumer. So our basically the aim of approach when we go to the jewelers or when we go to the traders who are buying, we specify what kind of treatment it is. But this thing is still understood by the people in the jewelers because they know what is happening in this industry. Only the thing what more important is that to a layman or to an end consumer, there should be a way or education which should be given to the people so they also feel confident while buying a jewelry. And this is all to be done together with the cooperation with the jewelers and the manufacturers, and then making a way out of it, how we can do. Because as I told you, when a layman is buying a stone, he doesn't want the face of the stone to change after 1 month or 6 months. And we want that the stone should remain same because he has paid some value for that stone. And if it has got some transparent, you can say, kind of a treatment which just keeps that cracks hold it and changing the face of the stone for next 10 years, of course, then it makes the whole value of the stones because he can go and sell it again to some other people. Similar, like you can say that before the heated ruby were not accepted. But when you heat a ruby at certain temperature, whether it's 10 years or 20 years, it will never change. So the stone values always remain the same. But instead, if you have a stone and then there's no treatment happening, and after 6 months you come and say, no, the stone is not like this and it's changed or it's dried, then actually it becomes a very difficult situation, especially for the jewelers like Jay or Hiramanik, other people, that you know how to bring that confidence to the layman, you know.
Okay. I'd like to share a situation which we had a few years ago, where we sold a fairly expensive, a fairly important pair of what we thought was natural Burma rubies to a client. So we had a certificate already from GII stating that they were natural Burma, but for whatever reason, this client insisted on an SSEF certificate. He said, I'm agreeable to everything. We settled the deal, but he said, I won't buy them without an SSEF certificate. So we had all the guarantees from the seller, who we have a fantastic rapport with. GII said natural Burma. Stones went to SSEF. One stone came natural Burma and one came pink sapphire. And they both look identical. I mean, color, purity, everything. I mean, it was almost like an identical pair. So obviously, a lot of argument ensued between SSEF and us, and between us and GII, and eventually we went with SSEF because that was, you know, that was their standard. They said that we have a certain barcode for certifying a stone as natural Burma, and then it just goes automatically into the pink sapphire range. So, I mean, that was really like a learning curve for us, because it didn't even occur to me that there could be a possibility that that stone could be a pink sapphire. Of course, the guy who we bought it from took the stones back and the deal got, you know, cancelled or whatever, but it was like a very frightening experience.
No, but can I add something here, Manoj? What
Sure.
you said is very correct. But the issue of pink sapphire and ruby, we have been struggling it since years. When it was classified and it was accepted that, okay, they'll differentiate the pink tone of ruby, especially the old Burmese, as
True.
pink sapphire. It's
True.
again the chemical composition of aluminum dioxide with magnesium and iron. So at a spectrum, when they see a less of chromium, they'll give it a pink sapphire. So, and they tried to do the same thing even with emeralds way back in '82 in Thailand. They wanted to do emeralds light green, Zambian emeralds, the green barrier. So at that time we protested, but the Thai people never protested because they thought that it is to their advantage that they can buy it, telling people that this is pink sapphire at a lower price and get a certificate of a ruby. So it
Right.
didn't turn out in their favor in the long run.
Right.
And what Arun Bhai said, these fancy names which GRS has been giving or Lotus is giving, honestly, they are very confusing and misguiding, according to me. Because a pink is a pink or a red, because Muzo green cannot go with the emerald from Zambian origin. The Muzo is the Colombian material.
True.
So I think we should avoid encouraging such terminology between the traders at least, and educate ourselves more on those lines.
Very true.
Very
Uh,
interesting. Very
Can I
interesting.
add something on the ethical practices? If you,
Yeah,
have
yeah.
comments? Just taking some cue from Arun Bhai and Dharmendra Bhai, I think trust is a very important factor in our business. And most customers in the earlier time would never ask for certificates. But with the advent of treatments and enhancement, they've been asking for certificates. And we need to give them quality lab reports, which we all mentioned. But what is happening in the trade is a lot of small laboratories for the mid-range and the lower range segment. Since I'm in the general market also and I deal in all kinds of qualities, so I see there is a big sector wherein a lot of small laboratories just for doing business are giving hundreds and thousands of certificates at attractive prices, and they're not giving full disclosure. If they're selling a natural ruby, it is actually a glass-filled ruby, but they're not giving those remarks. And a 300 carat ruby is selling for like 5,000 rupees a carat. So people are being misguided and the trust is being broken. One person in the industry breaks the trust, the whole industry loses its reputation. So it's very important to identify those people and make sure to encourage that the council, the industry, gem and jewelry, and promotes only the proper lab reports, and they get the credit. That's what I would like to add.
Okay, that was interesting. Now, if we come to how we should promote the colored gemstone in India, leave aside the word, but because India, we are sitting on a huge market and we are consuming about 800 tons of gold every year. So if we convert some jewelry, some gold jewelry into colored gemstone jewelry, we don't have to export. We can sell everything in the country itself. So what are your ideas कि कैसे promote किया जाए colored gemstone को within the country?
I think one very good marketing strategy, which is actually true, and it's not really something which we are being dishonest about, is the fact that over the last few years, colored stones, vis-a-vis sapphires, rubies, emeralds, have really held their own and continuously been appreciating, irrespective of the economic situation or the prevalent conditions in the market worldwide. While, for example, diamonds, they have their ups and downs, etc. But I don't think colored stones till today have seen those downs at all. It's always been an upward trend. I think that's one of the main selling points for colored stones or increasing the market. We use that a lot, and I think it really helps because we are being completely transparent about it. It's if you go to Google, you'll see that these are the results. I don't know what everybody else has to say about this, but I would think this would be the main selling point.
I agree.
Kamal, you go ahead.
Okay.
No, I totally agree with Manoj. Arun bhai, please, if you can add something.
No, it's just these for the marketing strategy. What Rajiva is saying, things have changed from past and present into the future. We are just going in a different world right now. When the people, if you ask me that, people are buying everything online. It's something, one of the most important thing which I feel, that a general piece of a jewelry, if it's a budget, like in America or in China, they have a kind of a ring selling for $100 or $200. If we can bring even that kind of education in India, that of course a color stone is also something which will be inexpensive and affordable, which a lot of people have in mind that no, if we go and buy a color stone, it's going to be very expensive. We should need to come and bring that education and online marketing to the people, and making some kind of a promotion of the color gemstone jewelry in India through, you can say, whether it's a celebrity, whether you make it with the high class people, or you put it on Instagrams, or you put it in something that yes, this is something which is coming up. Because there's one more thing I just tell you, Rajiv, that a young generation and the old generation, there is a big choices now. So again, the young generation in India is not as thinking as the same way what is thinking the old generation. Old generation is always thinking to buy something for a resale value, always having something which is an investment.
Can I add, Rajiv ji?
Yeah, please.
For gold, we have World Gold Council. For diamonds, we have De Beers. For colored stones, we actually do not have any representative body as such in the true sense. Now, the De Beers directly and indirectly make sure that diamonds are very well and strongly promoted in every generic manner and in a very specific manner by way of brands and various activities. Gold, if you look at, is very nicely promoted by a lot of advertising from the World Gold Council, as well as from a lot of jewelers itself. Now, if you will actually start an advertising campaign in some way or the other, and where you actually show the different elements and the fine beauty of gems, and it's not just the high value, that it's just for a very small value also you can have and possess a piece of natural beauty of a colored stone in itself. And I think that is one thing that can bring about a big change, because at the upper segment we have a lot of people who understand. At the lower segment, where the real volume of business exists, there is no aware or zero awareness at all about gems. So I think everywhere everyone says, then who is going to do this? And if all of us just sit tight and quiet and say, कि actually ये काम तो सर आपको कोई एसोसिएशन करेगा या कोई बॉडी आके करेगा, तो मैं समझता हूँ कोई नहीं करेगा. ये तो अपने आप को अपने जेब में हाथ डाल के एक 1%, 0.5% कुछ कंट्रीब्यूशन करके जमा करके एक शुरुआत करे कहीं ना कहीं से. तो मैं मानता हूँ ये बहुत आगे जाके प्रचलित होगा. और कलर्ड स्टोन जिस तरह से डायमंड आज बिक रहा है, आपको पता है 20 साल के अंदर डायमंड्स का सेल कितना बड़ा है. जो हंड्रेड्स में होता था वो थाउजेंड्स में होने लग गया है. और यही मानना कलर्ड स्टोन के लिए भी आ सकता है. और ये गुंजाइश है, आप किस तरह से उसको शुरू करते हैं और किस तरह से ले आते हैं उसके तरफ.
Absolutely. Yeah, Arun, please.
I want to add something. You see, even the color stone sale has grown through promotions. And if you see, because I'm very much in contact with the Gemfields people, Gemfield had spent with a budget of $20 million as a promotion around the world to promote emeralds. Because of which, I tell you, even in India, there came awareness at some exhibitions or some private seminars or some other things which made emerald much more, you can say, publicized, and people like to buy emeralds more because when they see it, when they see in the promotion happening, when they see how the Gemfield was doing the whole kind of promotion, definitely it made a big change. Because otherwise, I don't think at one point of time before Gemfields and we have this kind of big production, people knew much about even the emerald jewelry also. Of course, the high class people, they always knew it. But through this promotion, through this kind of Gemfield, so what Ashokji is saying, of course, if we continue that tradition in India to make some kind of a promotion about the color gemstone, I think color gemstone industry can go way big in India also.
I would strongly recommend the colored stone segment particularly to approach the mining people, number one. Some of the people who are actually active in the rough business, some who are actively involved in large manufacturing process of emeralds, rubies and other things and all. And if you all get together, even get some people from the retail sector and the wholesale sector also involved. मैं आपको बताता हूँ, आपको 2-4 करोड़ रुपया वैसे मजाक में जमा हो जाएगा और इसकी बहुत अच्छी तरीके से कैंपेन शुरू कर सकेंगे आप.
Ashok bhai, you are absolutely right, but somebody has to take this lead. I can throw an idea. मुझे ऐसा मालूम है जयपुर के बाजार में जब कोई भी सौदा होता था, any trade used to take place, उसमें certain percentage, a very small fraction of percentage, वो अलग उठा के रखते थे for some social work or promotion or something. धर्मादा बोलते थे उसको, कुछ भी बोलते थे. If we start doing this in color gemstone sector throughout the country, और वो पैसा इकट्ठा करके, and if something like your body, because you are promoting domestic market in India, I'm not talking about international market. Gem and Jewelry Export Promotion Council is doing its bit for promoting color gemstone overseas. But India, we are sitting on a huge market. अगर यहाँ पे हम लोग, it is not only ruby, emerald, sapphire. I'm talking about those variety of more than 100 stones. जिसका जो pocket है, it is available. पहले था हीरा सदा के लिए. When De Beers campaigned in India, बोले हीरा सब के लिए.
हाँ.
Right? So similarly, हमारे पास colored stone खाली धनाढ्य लोगों के लिए नहीं है. We have colored stone for everybody, and colored stone can be studied in silver as well as gold depending on the price of the colored stone. It has to be marketed well. और अगर हम ये कर लें तो मैं समझता हूँ कि we can create a huge market within the country. Although we have been discussing only ruby, emerald, sapphires right now, but there is and I am a semi-precious guy, which you call semi-precious, but I say I'm a gemstone guy. और मैं खाली रूबी, एमरल्ड, सफायर में बिजनेस नहीं करता, उसके अलावा सारे स्टोन्स में करता हूँ. तो आई कैन टेल यू, जैसे देयर इज अ कलर ऑफ अ ईयर, सो इफ वी कॉपी द सेम कलर ऑफ द ईयर विद द सेम कलर स्टोन, एंड देयर आर अबाउट 5 to 10 varieties of each color in the gemstones which are available to us, we can promote every year. That can be a campaign. So that is my idea actually. If we can, build upon this, and the whole market and everybody, all the stakeholders have to come together, and if we can do that. So I think that was my last question, but now the important thing is that what is the way ahead after COVID? हम लोग अभी तक अलग अलग काम कर रहे थे सब लोग, और इसीलिए I gave this idea today, why not we promote something collectively, because this COVID has taught us कि अगर एक कोई ऐसी त्रासदी आती है तो हम लोग सब एक साथ हो जाते हैं. We all are sitting in our homes doing nothing or doing something from the home, लेकिन कोई भी लेवल का है आदमी, वो अपने घर में ही बैठा है. So if our industry comes together in this time, I think we can do much more what we have been doing individually. So I would request you all to please, let us share what is your take on this.
Let's start with the retailers. What do they feel? Because their impact will be a direct impact on us.
Marinosh, you start, please.
I think till December it's going to be quiet, but I see, the advantage we have, at least in India, is that jewelry is a culture. It's an age-old tradition which is never ever going to die. All families, that whether they're going to have a wedding or not going to have a wedding, they'll still want to buy jewelry. Whether they're going to reduce the scale of the wedding or not, they'll still want to buy the same piece of jewelry or the same price range of jewelry. That's what I personally feel. I may be totally wrong, but this is what I feel. That irrespective of this COVID or whatever is happening, definitely people's wealth is going to go down, up and down with the share market and this and that. But I think eventually, I think the jewelry market, I personally feel, is going to be pretty safe. May not be for the next 3 or 4 months, but after that, I think people will come back. I mean, honestly, in the last 3 to 4 weeks, I think I told Jay this the other day that I got a couple of calls in from clients, requesting that if you're doing nothing and sitting at home, design something nice.
Design something, yeah.
Stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I think eventually, I think we're pretty safe, honestly. I don't think we'll really have to do much,
Exactly.
apart from the fact of maybe, like I had a client calling me the other day and joking, he says, why don't you have a Hiramanik sale? Knock off 50% and we'll all come and buy.
Yeah.
I think
No,
we'll
so
have,
even it's funny because even I got a call from a client saying that your industry is finished. Let me know if there's any good deals. And I had to let her know, I said, listen, our industry is far from finished.
yeah,
I mean, good quality things are going to cost you money. I was actually speaking to my cousin. My cousin heads the jewelry department of Christie's. His name is Rahul Kadakia. And he told me that the industry is going to be swinging, but wait till December. He said, wait till December. They had online sales. So last 10 days ago, a $1.3 million sapphire, a Tutti Frutti
Tutti
bracelet.
Frutti bracelet.
Yes, that's sold online. I mean, things like that has never happened. So people are sitting in their homes. Of course, it's a very small segment, who still believe the value of fine vintage jewelry, fine gemstones, and there'll always be people like that. But one-on-one, like as retailers, one-on-one, I see it, being a little difficult, but just till December.
I just like to add, Rajiv, in this thing that, this post-COVID, the most important part with the people is about the positivity, their mood.
Yeah.
Once we know that the people have some kind of vaccination coming up and they know that, okay, this thing is going to be cured, this thing is going to be finished, definitely there is the big positivity going to come in the market. And after that, I can just tell you that when there's a positivity and the things change, of course, when the people of, you can say, when their income goes down, when the things goes down, definitely it is going to make a change in what they want to buy. Maybe before they want to buy a $10,000 jewelry, but now they want to buy a $2,000 jewelry. It can change, but definitely it's not going to finish. But as for what I feel that if there's a positivity coming in the market and the mood changes for everybody, really the people is going to spend the money to buy something.
We all hope so.
Raju,
Like
what everyone has said, I totally agree. And I definitely see a upscale rise down the line after September, October season. And I personally feel that there will be a demand for better quality goods more in comparison for the short period, what we foresee, say, down the line in next 6 months. So my take is on better quality for next 6 months.
I think that's very encouraging because all of you are very positive. Even I feel so because there are few of the avenues which have been discouraged, like travel and holidaying and all that. So that money would be
saved. You'd be saving that sort of money. Yes,
and
absolutely.
Those who have money, they have to spend some way or the other.
Yes.
So sitting at home I think we are the safe bet for them.
Yeah.
The gems and jewelry
Absolutely.
is a safer bet for them. And even I believe, and I echo what you all said. So I think, Avinash bhai, we are over with this. And if there are some questions, if our viewers want to take, the whole panel is here.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to-
There is one interesting question.
Yeah.
Which I find very apt to ask, but I definitely know there is no answer to it. Is there a possibility of prices based on grading on the lines of diamond and gemstones, so that there is more trust which can come to the industry as well as to the consumer?
Can I answer this?
Yeah.
So the thing is, when you want a kind of a grading, the most important thing is that in color gemstones, it's not like diamonds, when there's a fixed color or there's a fixed grading. But of course, there can be a system set in this industry that from a kind of a range of color, from this color to this color, you can take it as like a D color or a E color or a F color. And then according to the same like inclusions, you can have a VS1 to VS3. But still, what I feel that our color gemstone industry is not that professional till now to give that kind of grading. So we need a kind of a whole body to come together and then make this kind of thing which is acceptable to many people. But as far as I know that, you know, a diamond is a very different commodity than a color gemstone, because color gemstone is all around the world, whether it is a semi-precious stone or whether it's a stone. They have a huge range of colors and the clarity and the fractures and everything. So it's very difficult to accommodate in one shade or one price range any general stone.
So,
Want to say something, or can I
add to this?
yeah, please.
Go ahead, Rajiv bhai.
No, you say first, then I'll.
Okay. There's one more thing to add to Arun bhai. Like what he said, there are so many different shades and tones and hues in color stone with clarity and luster. So there is always a small variation in all the gradings. Between traders, let me tell you one thing for sure, and I think Arun bhai and even Kamal bhai will agree with me, that when we all are talking amongst ourselves, there's not that big a valuation difference between our values. It's more when we are trying to market the stuff. So one way or the other, between the trading community, we definitely have a system which is going almost parallel and equal to each other. There's no, very rarely there will be a possibility, okay, until unless that I don't have a marketing for some product, that I may be way off from Arun bhai and he may be way off from me. But most of the time, I think we are all going head on together.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is what I want to say, that this problem is, which is not a problem, what Ponu rightly said, that between the traders, there is no problem of grading. But there are numbers of stone where the grading is already available. In other gemstones, the grading is available. There are A, AA, AAA, 4A, and where their production is large, there is a grading available. And we talk about price. So the A color price is different from AA color. But in emerald, ruby, sapphire, I think each piece is a piece of art. And there cannot be a fixed price for everybody. We'll lose the charm if we grade and if we give the fixed price for everything. In our jewelry business, that is a drawback with us. Consumer today asks for a certification of diamond, he has the price, then the gold price is fixed, then the labor is fixed. Only color gemstones is left. And if on the color gemstone also, if we fix the grading, which is very, very difficult to do that, then where the margin is there.
And one more thing, Rajiv bhai, there's one more thing. With diamonds, thanks God to GIA and all and the courses, what they are training people. So you're training a proper gemologist, and it's very simple. There's basically, I'm sorry to say, not big of mathematics to deal in diamonds once you are qualified GIA gemologist. But when you come to color stone, the spectrum is so big that honestly, you need to have an institution which trains jewelers, not a gemologist, who really understands all the color stone, and which I think is really a tough job. And I don't think so any one of us has the patience to go through the whole learning process even.
If I can add something to this, it's as Dharmender bhai said and Arun bhai said, one of the main challenge in grading for color stones is actually the inclusions. In my experience, we can describe the color. It is a complex system because there are so many different gemstones. But when it comes to inclusions, more than 99% of the gemstones are medium to heavily included. And once you grade that, like in diamonds, VVS1, VVS2, color stones are all SI and I1, I2. So when the customer or consumer sees those grades, they only end up seeing the flaws more than the beauty. My dad, like you rightly say me when I started buying, कि यार तू अगर ये checklist ही देखता रहेगा ना, तो तू कभी beauty नहीं देख पाएगा stone की. So try to embrace the beauty, and जो flaws को वो रहने दे side में, find the beauty in the stone. That's why it's little complex, and we feel scared कि ये अगर customers को ये grading दे दी और I1, I2, I3 comfortably वो accept नहीं कर सकता है. For that you need right education. So we still need some time to develop.
That's what we should bring that trust back. That you trust the eye of your jeweler, That's it. Your jeweler says it is nice. You have a certificate
Right.
and sell the goods. That's what it should be.
So
Jay bhai, I
fully-
wish the life could be that simple for us.
We need to program that now.
But एक जमाने में ऐसा ही
Yes,
तो
you
होता
have.
था. This is how it
No,
is.
you have a certificate. You have a certificate which says this is natural. This is the enhancement. This is what it is. That's fine. But the jeweler has to have some say that yes, this is nice. Please buy it. I mean, we face that a lot of times when sometimes I feel maybe wrong that when you give too much information, you're confusing a client who does not know. I mean, they come there for the purpose of buying. I have clients who come to me with huge theories on different enhancements. I'm like, you're not dealing in these stones. You're buying it for yourself. You need to know you're buying a good stone, a fine, important stone, which has either got an SSCF certificate. Yes, some people want two, like they rightly said. Stick to that. What enhancement, what oil, what this, what that. I feel it's just too much information to process for a client. Yes, we should know. We should know what it is.
I agree with the panelists. It all varies from individual to individual, and when we talk about giving inputs to the consumer to sell, it can vary from individual to individual.
Yes.
There is one more good question. Can somebody throw some light on the Camlin garnet? Because Jay, you only started that. Can you just throw some light on that, because people will be willing to know little more about that.
So the demantoid garnet.
Yeah.
Right. So the first time I saw that stone, like I said, was in 99. It was a piece of old jewelry that we got from a client of ours. One thing what I learned about identification of that stone is the inclusion is like a horse tail.
Horse tail.
The hair of a horse's tail. I was shocked at the price because, growing up and, they said, okay, fine. These are, like I said, the big five: ruby, emerald, sapphire, basra pearl, diamond. And when my uncle asked me to value this, the program was at 500 rupees a carat or 1,000 rupees a carat. And he said, no, this is far more than anything that you have seen today. So yes, there is a small spectrum of those stones, and demantoid garnet, mainly in a lot of old Russian jewelry, was favored by the Tsars, by the royal family. So a lot of Fabergé had demantoid garnets. I haven't really seen any of the other big houses use too much of demantoid garnets. It's scattered that way, but it's a very important stone, no doubt about that.
A lot of small size goods are in the market, and like what you said, the horse tail inclusion is the main character to identify it from the rest of the other garnets.
Yes.
So
Russia is the only supply source at the moment.
In Russian goods, because it comes from Russia. It comes from Russia, and there is a little bit availability in Iran, which is the border from this area. But there is some variety available in Namibia also. But unfortunately, there is no horse tail inclusion there. And the color is little palish. And the Russian goods is like emerald green. So that is the beauty. If there is no horse tail, the price goes down.
Correct.
So the beauty of the stone is there is a horse tail. But again, that falls under the category of semi-precious.
No way, I won't call it a semi-precious. Give me a break.
I
think stick to gemstones.
One more thing today, that semi-precious people are making more money than precious people,
You have more colors to play with, Rajiv bhai.
I think this can go on and on for hours or days, I can say, because gemstone is a very big subject. So I have a lot of other questions, but I'm not taking because of the time constraint. So over to you, Ashok bhai.
I thoroughly enjoyed this entire 95 to 100 minutes of a webinar, which is again a very good, interesting subject of mine, the world of colored stones. और आप लोगों ने जो एक ऐसे पहलू दिए हैं, ऐसे समझ दी है कि सुन के बिल्कुल मजा आ गया। आपको मैं बता सकता हूँ, इतने सारे लोग जुड़े हुए थे, सब लोगों ने अच्छी तरह से एंजॉय किया है। धर्मेंद्र जी की बातें एक सुन के ऐसा लगा कि पूरे जैसे नया नई नई बातें एक एक जो हमने कभी नहीं सुनी थी ऐसी बातें उन्होंने करी। एंड जय ने तो ये डेमोन्ट्राइट गार्नेट को लाके पता नहीं सबके दिमाग खराब कर दिए। आई थिंक ही वाज जस्ट वेटिंग टू इम्प्रेस एवरीवन ओवर देयर। एंड
Far from
Kamal तो is a box of information always. He is a treasure of information. कभी भी मिलता हूँ तो बहुत अच्छी बातें करता है और I think that is his biggest trait and he enjoys all these things. अरुण जी आपने भी बहुत ही एंजॉय करवाया हम सब लोगों को, आपकी बातों में बहुत मजा आया है। एक बात बहुत महत्व की है कि सबको मिलके इस इंडस्ट्री को आगे ले जाने के लिए एक तो यूनाइटेडली चलना पड़ेगा। लोग आपको जरूर उतारने की कोशिश करेंगे, हराने की कोशिश करेंगे, कहेंगे कि अब तो ये इंडस्ट्री आपकी तकलीफ में आ गई है, परेशान है, लेकिन सबको साथ रह के एक मजबूत तरीके का जवाब देना पड़ेगा। जैसे जय ने बताया कि वी आर स्टिल ऑन, डोंट वरी, वी हैव अ स्टिल लॉन्ग वे टू गो। इसी तरह से आई थिंक बात आगे जाएगी। Mernosh also gave a fantastic representation of exactly how he got stuck in one deal over a pair of rubies, and the way he has explained in every single matter. I really enjoyed it. Mernosh, we must meet on this matter and have a long chat over coffee someday. And I am very impressed by the way Rajiv Jain ji has moderated this entire panel. And we are all extremely thankful to him. Rajiv ji, heartiest congratulations, best wishes to every single member in the panel over here. And tomorrow, I just want to remind you, we have another session, which is on the path-breaking design strategies, ideas of the future. This is based on design. And this is going to be moderated by a designer called Gunjan Suri, who runs our own Gunjan Suri Couture Jewels. We have Sweta Ranka, who is the head of online education, IGI India. We have Laksh Pahuja, who is the director and jewel virtuoso of Gemma Designer Jewels. We have Sonali Sheth, creative director of Sphere Jewelry. Abhishek Rastogi, head of design at Tanishq, Zoya and Nia. And we have Abhishek Raniwala, aapke Jaipur ke creative director, Raniwala 1881. So friends, we meet again tomorrow. We are going to have these MindSpeak sessions till the 15th of May, hopefully, in case there are no further extensions, because I'll have to pull my hair out, a little bit of that is left out. 15 दिन की बात शुरू करके आज
अशोक भाई, you left
40 दिन
कमल.
हो गए. Sorry, and
कमल का नाम नहीं लिया आपने, कमल को भूल गया.
कहीं कमल को भूल नहीं सकता मैंने, कमल का 100% इंक्लूड किया है. So we meet again tomorrow. कमल, you must join it. डिजाइन के बारे में भले आप कलर स्टोन बेचते हो, थोड़ा सा ज्वेलरी में भी इंटरेस्ट लिया करिए.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
Thank you guys and wish you all
thank you
so much
everyone.
Thank you for having us. Stay safe.
Thank you,
Dharmender ji.
One message to everyone that we should bring colors to the life of the people now.
Everybody, wow, fantastic.
सर हरी हरी करेंगे सर, सबकी हरी हरी करेंगे.
Thank you Rajiv ji.
Thank you.
Thank you
Mernosh.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you Kamal.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you Arun ji.
Thank you, Jay bhai. Thank you, Manoj bhai.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you. Thank you.
bye.
अविनाश जी, गार्नेट कलर लगाया अपने बालों को?
Great sir. Thank you. Thank you everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.